SpaceX and NASA finally reveal new moon base by 2024. A small step for man, a giant leap for mankind. Those were the iconic words astronaut Neil Armstrong uttered as he became the first human to step foot on the moon in 1969. Since then, a total of 12 astronauts have landed on the moon, all of whom were part of the US Apollo mission program. But over time, the humans' interest in the moon started to dwindle, and focus shifted to exploring the solar system beyond the moon. In the last decade, however, NASA's interest in our orbiting rock was reinvigorated, and they've given SpaceX the task of establishing a moon base to secure a permanent human presence on it for the first time in human history. All of this by the year 2024. Isn't that astounding? Well, if that piqued your interest, then you are in luck. Because today in our video, we're going to talk all about NASA and SpaceX's plans for revealing the new moon base by 2024. Why was SpaceX chosen for the task? How do they plan on getting to the moon? What'll be the purpose of this moon base? Well, stick around till the end as we answer these questions and more. So let's dive right in. NASA's Artemis program is an effort to place astronauts on the lunar surface and develop an ongoing presence there. The program's name is derived from Artemis, the Greek goddess of the moon and twin sister to Apollo, whose namesake program first brought news to our natural satellite 50 years ago. The Artemis program is a renaming of several earlier activities NASA was already undertaking to return humans to the moon. These were mandated by President Trump's Space Policy Directive 1, which tasked the agency with focusing on missions to the moon. Earlier in 2019, Vice President Mike Pence set an ambitious deadline to land humans to the lunar South Pole by 2024. Under Artemis's umbrella are several components. First is the Lunar Orbital Platform Gateway, a station around the moon that would extend humanity's presence in space and provide a platform for scientific experiments and jaunts to the lunar surface. Astronauts will speed weeks to the lunar surface, eventually construct a moon base, and practice with technology and operations necessary to land humans on Mars one day. Part of NASA's push towards the moon includes an enlarged role for private aerospace firms, which are intended to develop hardware and potentially kickstart a lunar economy. NASA has awarded $45.5 million to 11 U.S. companies, including Elon Musk's SpaceX, to develop landers that can take astronauts to the moon's surface. NASA already has a new, powerful moonshot rocket, the SLS, and a new spacecraft, the Orion space capsule, a much more advanced Apollo-like craft. But the space agency only finally settled on its choice of human landing system vehicle, a vessel to carry astronauts from lunar orbit to the moon's surface and back again. In 2020, NASA awarded contracts to 3 commercial teams, SpaceX, Dynetics, and Blue Origin, for the agency's Human Landing System program. They asked each of these companies to develop an innovative landing system to be used under the Artemis program to ferry astronauts down to the lunar surface. This Friday, NASA announced that SpaceX's Starship had beat out the other 2 competitors, winning the $2.9 billion contract to build the Artemis lunar lander. Budget constraints have been blamed for the single contract award. Congress approved $850 million for the lander's development in 2021, which is only about a quarter of NASA's request. The SpaceX contract is worth a total of $2.89 billion and covers a robotic test flight to the moon's surface, followed by the human landing. If NASA already has a spaceship to carry them to Mars, then what exactly is SpaceX developing for them? The Artemis Human Landing System, short for HLS, is the contemporary equivalent of the Apollo program's Lunar Excursion Module, or LEM. The Artemis 3 astronauts will travel to lunar orbit in NASA's Orion spacecraft. But like the Apollo Command Module, Orion will never touch the moon itself. Instead, Orion will rendezvous with the Starship HLS, and both vehicles will dock with NASA's Gateway, a small space station planned for lunar orbit. Artemis astronauts will then transfer to the Starship HLS and descend to the moon's surface in the space vehicle, serving as their base of operations for 6 days. At the end of their mission, the Starship HLS will return the astronauts to orbit and Gateway, where they will transfer back to Orion for their journey home to Earth. The Starship HLS variant is just that, a variant, not a radical redesign. But SpaceX has already announced some significant changes over the main Starship spacecraft. SpaceX will ditch the typical aerodynamic fins and heat shielding for the Starship HLS variant, since once launched, it will not be returning to Earth for landing. The Starship HLS will also have wide legs for landing on the rocky lunar surface, and some form of elevator for lowering astronauts and material up and down its 164 feet height. Operations-wise, the Starship HLS will launch into low Earth orbit, where it'll dock with another Starship variant, this time a fuel tanker, and take on fuel for its journey to the Moon. The Starship tanker variant is still under development. It'll require as many as 10 additional Starship launches to fill up with fuel for a Starship HLS mission to the Moon. Enjoying the video? We've talked at great length about the Artemis program and the details of the mission, but we still haven't touched upon the planned moon base. Where will this moon base be set up and how will it function? Think about it for a while, but while you think, do subscribe to our channel and click on the bell icon to receive instant notification about all our future videos. NASA is forging ahead with its Artemis program to land humans on the Moon by 2024, but the agency has also offered its first plan for what a U.S. lunar presence may look like after that milestone. A new plan came from a 13-page report submitted in 2020 to the National Space Council, an advisory group to ex-President Donald Trump. Much of the report, titled NASA's Plan for Sustained Lunar Exploration and Development, summarizes the vision NASA has laid out for justifying and accomplishing the 2024 moon landing. But the report also looks farther out to focus on what a long-term presence on the Moon and in lunar orbit would permit the U.S. to accomplish. The star of the report is what NASA has dubbed Artemis Base Camp, meant to be a long-term foothold for lunar exploration, perhaps in Shackleton Crater at the Moon's south pole. According to the document, Artemis Base Camp itself would be a lunar foundation surface habitat that could host 4 astronauts at the South Pole for visits of a week. In the long term, the facility would also require infrastructure for power, waste disposal, and communications, as well as radiation shielding and a landing pad. The base could also be a site for testing new technologies, for dealing with pesky lunar dust and the long, cold lunar nights, turning local materials into resources like water, and developing new power and construction technologies. Artemis Base Camp would be accompanied and supported by 2 mobility systems, a lunar terrain vehicle to facilitate astronaut movement across the surface, and a habitable mobility platform that could support trips away from the base for up to 45 days. The report also outlines a plan to use the Moon orbiting way station dubbed the Gateway as a site for Mars analog missions. These practice missions could play out as a team of 4 astronauts living on the Gateway for several months to mimic the duration of a journey to Mars, then a landing crew of 2 visiting the Moon's surface, then another long orbital stay to fill out the mission's timeline. But the long-term vision for Artemis includes plenty of Moon-specific science, as well as preparing for Mars exploration. During the Apollo program, NASA proved that it is possible to do the seemingly impossible, land humans on the Moon. By taking a collaborative approach and working with SpaceX while leveraging NASA's proven technical expertise and capabilities, NASA plans to return American astronauts to the Moon's surface once again, this time to explore new areas for longer periods of time. Despite various hurdles and budgetary constraints, Elon Musk doesn't think NASA's 2024 moon landing goal is out of reach. So, are you excited to see humans return to the Moon and build a base there? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to watch more of our amazing videos, then stay tuned.